Welcome back to Time Under Tension. Last week, we talked about intuition, what it is, some methods for connecting with it, how to reconnect with it in your life in a way that's applicable. And this week, we want to dive a little bit more into those tangible ways to start to reconnect with it and what you can do in your daily life in order to build trust with your intuition. So I think of intuition as like a combination. It's like our truest self in communication with God. So it has like insight that we're not always really consciously aware of, but we have some ways that we can tap into it. And I honestly think that for many of us, our struggles externally in life, the addictions we run back to, the patterns of coping that we have, even the struggles in our relationships that we notice are kind of on a loop, regardless of the relationship, like who it's with. Those can all be indicators of a deeper issue in communicating with our intuition. So I think that there's a lot of value in starting there, as opposed to trying to peel back the layers from the addiction or from the behavior or from the habit or from the relationship issue. Like, this is the groundwork that will pour into every area of your life.
Yeah, I think that speaks to something I mentioned last week about the difference between your mind and your intelligence, and how your mind is more your conscious mind and your intelligence is more that subconscious mind, the part of you that is connected more intuitively to your actual intuition. And mindfulness is just like you're saying. I think the point of focus for mindfulness is really trying to quiet that part of you that's the conscious mind, and really then allowing your subconscious mind to kind of take over a little bit more, which tends to lead to that body connection or that gut feeling, or that what we are describing as our intuition. It's super important to understand that we don't have to be judging all of the things that are happening, like you're saying, but allowing for the thoughts in your mindfulness practice to kind of just sift through like clouds in the sky, to allow that subconscious mind, that intelligence aspect of your brain that is connected solely to your intuition, really come to fruition, come to life.
Yeah, I think that when you're getting started on this journey to living out of your intuition, it's really important that you set aside time to be reflective, because we're so caught up in living in the conscious mind that there's not a space between our stimulus and response. And we need to step away often to create that space for ourselves to reflect until we build up the skill set to do it more real time. I think we always need time alone to do this, but I think especially as you're getting started, taking a separate amount of time in the day, like very dedicatedly protecting that time of reflection, is really important, because it's very likely that when you're in real world scenarios, your automatic response is not going to be to step away from your conscious reactions and reflect in the moment. Like, if you're in the heat of a discussion and you're noticing yourself getting like anxious, it's going to be really hard to then stop there and reflect. Like, I think that comes with time, but I think it's really important to have a practice of mindfulness that's separate, that's independent, and that's done alone.
Yeah, I think that is so just spot on in my mind. The space between stimulus and response is really where we get to insert our mindfulness and add that reflection, and be able to have the power to change the behavior, be able to have the power to change the response that has maybe led to, maybe the response is the addiction, maybe the response is the anger, or the toxic, the thing that you do that's toxic in relationships. That mindfulness practice, just initiating that, like you're saying, I think that is the place it shows up most. And so having I'm going to read this quote because it just made me think of it. And I think it's so good because you're talking about making it a practice. It says, if you talk about it, it's a dream. If you envision it, it's possible. But if you schedule it, it's real. That was Tony Robbins. And I think there are a lot of times we have a lot of conversation around mindfulness. We talk a lot about meditation, but until it's in your schedule, this is an applicable way to get mindfulness as a part of your routine into, it doesn't even, like we said before, it doesn't need to be this long thing. It just needs to be scheduled so it's real in your mind, and having that time to get still, to get quiet, to be in a place where it's just you and you have that sacred space to really be able to identify what your responses were to a particular stimulus allows for your mind to get quiet and your intelligence to start inserting its way. And I think something that happens that you spoke to as well is we start to fine tune our ability to hear our intuition that way. So when we're actually taking the time to get quiet and reflect, it's like fine tuning an instrument. Like we've kind of heard that analogy. For you to really be able to hear, for you to be able to trust that you're connected to your intuition, it's going to take practice and it's going to take fine tuning to really hear the right sound, just like you would fine tune if you're playing a guitar, getting it to sound the right way. That mindfulness practice, I think that scheduled time allows you to build practice time to really start to hear your intuition and use your intuition in real time, like you're saying.
Yeah, I love this concept of you don't have to believe everything that you think. But the problem is we're so used to just listening to all the things that come through our mind, and a lot of them are just on repeat. I forgot the percentage, but it's something absolutely insane. Like definitely over 90% of the thoughts that we think are the same thoughts from yesterday. And that fine tuning is a way to hone into the truest voice, because a lot of the voices that we hear, a lot of the things that are on repeat in our head aren't us, aren't our truest being. They're the things that we were told, whether they're negative or not. Some of them are, this is how prejudice gets passed along. It's so deeply ingrained because it's something that we witnessed as kids and we just came to believe as part of our worldview. And we don't know how to separate what we believe from all the things that are going through our minds. And many of us don't even recognize that there is a difference there, and that there are multiple voices kind of playing into our mindsets through the day. So that fine tuning is such a great way to put it, because you're trying to key into that one voice, the one that's like most in alignment with your values, which we've talked about before, most in alignment with your true worldview, like the worldview you want to have based on your belief system, your faith. And you have to practice that. It's a relationship. Like your interaction with your intuition is a relationship. And just like any relationship, it takes time, it takes effort, it takes intentional listening, it takes messing up and learning it better. Like it's an interchange at all times. So it's not something you're just going to snap back into, because for most of us, it's not something we've been in tune with since we were little kids. And some of us, fairly young, depending on how early on that was disrupted.
I think something to point out in terms of application is really starting to question your thoughts. When you see a thought, question that thought and just start practicing that. That's an applicable way to really start to identify if that's your voice or if it's someone else's voice that's now in you because you have a learned pattern of behavior from whether it was your environment growing up as a kid or a friend growing up as a kid, whatever the source was of the thought, you're able to really take it and identify it as this is something I believe or not. And I know you were talking about Jordan Peterson's book yesterday with this. So if you want to add in a little bit of that to this overall message, I think that would be wicked cool. But I think something that you mentioned is relationship is really what it is. It's a relationship. And so another applicable way to think about it is your mind and body are in relationship with one another. Your intelligence and your body relate. And that means that they have connection and they talk to one another. So when we're talking about our intuition being in the body, that's why mindfulness is so important, because if you're not having the connection of mind and body, then you're not actually able to form that relationship. You're functioning from, the neck up, and there's nothing being taken into account down here. So when you think about building a relationship with someone else, another person, you're spending a lot of time with them. That's how you get to know them. That's how we're at this point now where we know exactly what one's gesture, facial reaction, or whatever, we say a word, we know what that means because we spent so much time together. That if we can think about connecting mind and body, connecting intelligence to intuition, putting that into practice means that you have to spend time, your intelligence connecting to your intuition, meaning meditation. For me, it's meditation. And for me, meditating is laying down on the ground with, my hands up, my eyes closed, listening to an insight timer guided meditation. And that's just my applicable way. But there are so many other ways to make sure that you're engaging in that time to start building the relationship. I think meditating, for me, defining meditation again is that quiet time that I spend scheduled right after my workout, where I'm laying down for 15 minutes and I choose my meditation based on the initial feeling I have that day, what I feel like I need, whether it's a body scan, I feel a little disconnected from my body, whether it's a divine connection meditation, I want to feel closer to God, or, I want to just listen to some music and let my body just feel the music. Insight Timer is the app that I use, and has over 50,000 meditations, and you can go in and actually click the discover page and pick out of a massive amount of different topics to choose from. One thing I do want to mention is that I started this journey of mind-body connection and meditation over COVID when I wasn't even acknowledging or honoring my body at all. And so I was really starting from complete disconnection, and just 60 seconds to 2 minutes was all I was focusing on initially. I knew that I was functioning from a place of reactivity instead of responding. And one of the biggest things that I had heard, and multiple people have shared, is quieting the mind, get still. And I didn't really understand that. And I also couldn't initially. My mind was all over the place. I could not lay down for 60 seconds and just chill out initially at first. But it just took repeated practice, just not judging myself in that space and allowing myself to just keep practicing and promising to myself that I was going to do that every day, regardless of if it went well or not, and just journaling out after that how it went and what I saw. Then over time, now last night I just did a meditation that was 27 minutes long and was fully engaged in it, was able to get through all 27 minutes without really having my mind drift away, which was wicked cool. And that's just the progress that has come to be since I've been doing this practice. But something that is really important, I think, to continue to point out is that your thoughts will pop up and they'll show up, and it's totally cool. Just let them come in and then let them drift away, just like a cloud in the sky, and continue engaging in the meditation. I know it can get a bit frustrating, but allowing yourself to just work through the kinks and trusting that you'll get to a place where your intuition really starts to spark and fire, almost instantly, is something that you can achieve. Just keep working through the initial frustration.
So when I started meditating, I'm like you, and being like restless, and the idea of laying on the ground for an entire minute was like, what am I doing? I'm not being productive. Like, I have so much that I should be doing now. Like, this doesn't make any sense. And then thinking that mindfulness and meditation meant having an empty mind. And then I just felt bad. I just felt guilty that I couldn't shut down all the thoughts that were going through my head. So, and I tried Insight Timer, and personally, I just found that I couldn't even pay attention because I just had so much going on in my head. And then I just felt guilty again about it because I had this expectation of what I thought meditation should be. And I wasn't giving in to what my mind and body needed. So when I've started, and granted, I don't have a regular practice with it, and it's something that I am very much intending to reincorporate with a little bit more studying about it lately. I was doing it for like 30 minutes right off the bat because I'm kind of an all or nothing person. And I found that when I told myself it could be whatever I wanted it to be for 30 minutes, as long as I just laid there with my eyes closed and did not do anything, did not have my phone, then I could let my mind go where it wanted. And once I gave myself permission, it was so great because where I found my mind going, being a very anxious person, is to my fears. Like my anxieties became really loud, and I was like, this is exactly why I do not want to lay on the floor. Like these things are already screaming at me all day long, and now they're just really loud, and I have nothing to distract me. But what happened is I decided to lean into them. So I had like a very specific anxiety. I mean, granted, at this time, like I was having a lot of issues in my relationship and considering getting divorced. So that was a very immediate thought. And I found myself going to it all the time through the day, but not actually like digging into it. So I made myself sit there and just follow the path of like, what's the fear? What am I missing? What do I need? What do I really want? And just following the thought all the way through to its end became a form of meditation for me. And I was able to get to the end of a 30-minute session and feel so much clarity about what I needed to do because I wasn't asking for other people's opinions or help, which can create just more input that you're having to sift through and just dilute your inner voice even more. I wasn't researching it. I wasn't out looking to anything external. I knew what I needed to do, but I didn't know I knew what I needed to do until I listened to myself. And I sifted through all the thoughts and found mine and followed it to the end. And I was able to make a lot of life changes back to back in that period of time. It was just like 2 or 3 months, and I only meditated like maybe 5 or 6 times. But the amount of life change that happened just from those sessions because of the amount of clarity I had was absolutely mind blowing. So I wouldn't challenge you to commit to 30 minutes off the bat, but I want to encourage you, let it be what it needs to be. Like you'll know what you need. If you need some guidance to walk you through, that's great. Insight Timer is an awesome app. If you just need to listen to music and be still because your mind is going all day and you don't really need to be following thoughts anywhere, that's great. Learn how to just meditate on your breath. Like learn to feel your breath. That's a great way to reconnect with your body. But if you're like me and you have these anxious tendencies and you find yourself distracting yourself from them all day long, sit with them. And I promise you, they will start to dissolve and you will start to have clarity. It is absolutely wild.
Yeah, I think breath work is another actionable step towards connecting to your intuition. I think what both of us end up experiencing is that clarity you talk about and just knowing what to do when we get still and we're able to allow our thoughts to either follow them all the way through or kind of allow them to just quiet down and connect to the body. We're really able to hear that whisper, that little voice inside that really is letting us know our truest self, our most authentic self. And that's the voice that's going to then be the thing to follow. I think something else that you mentioned before that can be a kind of actionable step is when you are working through the process of connecting to your intuition and hearing your intuition, it's important to act immediately on what it is that you hear, because that's just another way to understand if you've fine-tuned enough to truly find your intuition, or if something else kind of got in the way, whether it was reason in the mind or someone else's belief that you now hold as your own was the thing that you were truly hearing. It's going to take time. It's going to take failing. And failing is great because it shows you what is not your intuition. You can grow from that experience, but just understanding that it's not going to be this super loud voice all the time. It's not going to be something that just pops up. It's going to take some time to really develop truly being able to tap into your intuition more in real time. But knowing that if you do have that gap in between some stimulus and response, it's a time to just be patient and wait to hear from that part of you. When I was doing this meditation last night, it was encouraged to actually ask your subconscious mind, ask your heart, ask your intuition, what is yes? Heart, it was said, heart, tell me what is yes. And you just kind of wait and see what you feel. Okay, heart, tell me no. And so then you have this dialogue with your intuition from the mind, from your actual voice, that's allowing you to understand what yes means, how it feels in the body, what no means, and what that feels like. Ask your subconscious mind to show you your earliest, happiest memory was the one that I was doing as well. And having that communication to allow that gap from question to answer to be a space that can be filled with your intelligence or your heart allows for you to then build that connection with that part of you, knowing that that is something that is part of you, that is the truest, deepest, most authentic part of you, that you want to truly be the one making the decisions for you.
And you're I would say an intermediate or advanced meditator. So that idea of asking your body, what does this feel like? And then getting that response. I think that's something that you've trained over time. And that may be hard to do for someone who's still super connected from their body. I think we need to try different routes to connect with our body. But if that seems intimidating to you, I think another thing you can do is look at when you're performing behaviors that are habitual or like addictive in nature and trace it back to what your trigger was. And because sometimes you might not be so connected with your body that you feel that gut feeling, like we actually can feel things in our body, like a gut feeling or like upset stomach or chest pain if we're feeling stress. But sometimes we're so in it that we're disconnected from those feelings, but we see the behavior. We find ourselves doing the same thing we said we wouldn't do anymore, and now we're doing it again. But removing the guilt from that and saying, whoa, this is a flag that my body is showing, but it doesn't know how to get my attention in here. So it's getting my attention by this action, using that as a tool to trace back to the yes or the no. Like if your addictive behavior is coming through, like, yes, it's somewhat programmed. So there's different aspects of like, if it's at the same time of the day, you're doing it, but there's times when something is triggering it and you need to like use it as a tool for you to say, my body's trying to get my attention right now because it needs something. So it's looking to this external thing or habit to fulfill that need. So I need to really figure out what I actually need right now, because I know in my mind that that doesn't fulfill me because I'm upset that I keep doing it and I feel guilt around doing it. And I know afterwards I'll kick myself for doing it. Use it as a tool to start to build that connection with your body until you can prime that inner, like, this doesn't feel right. Something's not sitting right in my chest, in my, in my stomach, or however that shows up.
I think this is a great, segue into intuitive eating, and just mentioning how that is actually a way that you can start to build connection with your intuition, because we all know what hunger, and when you're hungry, when you're really hungry and your stomach's growling, we know that that is that clear indicator that we need food. And so with that being a more normalized emotion that our body feels, that we actually are in tune with, practicing intuitive eating in terms of when you eat something, taking time to reflect with the body. How do I feel right now? Do I feel lethargic? Do I feel energized? Did my body like this? That kind of practice. And I think you can talk a little bit more to that. But intuitive eating is a cool way to start connecting to your intuition, because you're having to have that time that you're checking in with self, body self, that starts to just teach you that mind and body do have communication.
Yeah. So it is so challenging to reconnect with your hunger signals if you're not used to listening to them. It's like your body's been yelling at you forever and you're just like, it finally like, whatever, I'm done yelling at you. And it's tired of it, right? So you have to like reconnect with that voice, be like, all right, I hear you, I'm listening. And it takes some time to figure out, again, is this actual hunger or is this psychological or emotional hunger? Like, what does it mean to feel hungry and how do I even go about addressing it? And I've found that in my own journey with intuitive eating, which is about, 7 weeks now, it has been way more emotional than physical because I don't feel like I have a great connection physically with what that hunger feels like. But there are times when I turn to food. And so I have to like break down what voice is driving me to food right now. I watched a video of, I don't remember his name. I will tag it here though, of the guru we talk about. And he was talking about like the healthiest diet. What's the healthiest diet? And he was explaining how with hunger, hunger is a beautiful thing. It tells us when we need to eat, but people feel hunger and then they feel stressed that they're hungry. And really, we should look more at our energy level. So we can feel hunger and learn to sit with it and say, okay, I feel kind of hungry right now, and let ourselves really feel it. So, not trying to just feed it right away, we'll let ourselves feel it. And then when we start to feel that like energy lag, it's like, okay, now my body is really telling me it needs some fuel. So almost taking the hunger as like that first cue, like, hey, like starting to get there. And then that, all right, I'm starting to slow down. I'm starting to feel like I need some fuel, can be that second cue. And usually there's not a big time gap there. But what I found for me is it helps me really sort through that guilt around, okay, I'm just eating because I'm bored, or I still don't really know what it feels like to feel hungry, or that anxiety around, oh my God, I feel hungry, I need to eat something right now. It's like, all right, I feel hungry, I'm like, I'll give it another 10 minutes and just see how I feel. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, like I'm starting to feel kind of like sluggish, I got a lot of work to do right now, like let me just take 20 minutes, sit down, be present, have a meal, and then see how I feel after. Today I found this app and it's called Peace with Food, and you can get it. There's like a 7-day free trial, but it's really cool because you can set up recurrent reminders and it'll message you and say like check in, and it'll ask you like your level of fullness. And so then when you're ready to have a meal, there's a little button you can hit and you can reflect like, all right, how hungry am I right now? Great. And it just creates awareness around your hunger levels. And instead of it being like, all right, it's meal time, how hungry am I? Well, this is the time that I need to eat. I had it going all day, every 60 minutes. And it was really cool because I'd be like in the middle of my workout and it would ask me where my hunger was. And normally I'd be like, I'm not thinking about food right now. Like I don't get to eat till after. I was like, I'm actually pretty full and energized right now, which was really cool to be reflective about. And then I kind of saw it build, like you can kind of gauge it over time. So kind of like slowly increase the scale. And I like then went to the grocery store and it made me check in again. And I was like, I'm a little bit more hungry now, but not like super hungry. And then by the time I got home, I was like, yeah, I'm at that point of like actual hunger now. So now I have like a reference range for like what it feels like. There's not just a hungry and stuffed. There's like, all right, like starting to feel it, like just being able to fine tune again what that signal feels like in your body, but then having a visual guide to associate it with. So it becomes a little bit more tangible.
That's so good. I feel like that is so perfect for all other emotions as well. That allows for that period of time to understand that you're not just going to be super angry or like super chill. There's like this always this, balance that we can find, or where are we at on the spectrum, that we can just start kind of journaling or noting. And that's a great example. I think that's so cool, first of all. But also just knowing that you can take that same idea and do that with all of your other emotional cues will just help you to really start to understand, again, those triggers, like we're saying, or being able to unravel some of those behavior patterns that lead you to feeling stuck or depressed or low or unfulfilled and purposeless. And I think, a big part of connecting to the intuition is really being able to understand that your thoughts aren't your thoughts, like you said before. And sometimes your thoughts are very much influenced by your surroundings, and there's a lot of other things, past beliefs, past people in your life, past trauma you don't remember, that are playing into it. So questioning those thoughts again, like we said before, all of that plays into being able to truly function out of a place of hearing your intuition.
That is great. So, in terms of tangible things, tangible takeaways, we talked about mindfulness, like meditation, which I think is a really good practice to do sometime in the morning. Like you do your workout and then you meditate. So it like kind of primes your day. For me, I like journaling as well. I kind of use that as my mindfulness practice. But I would set something that you do in the morning, set something that you do at the end of the day to reflect, and then have some kind of process through the day, even if it's one time. Like if you want to do breakfast, lunch, and dinner, set reminders on your phone and check in with yourself, like 10 minutes. That's all. And you owe yourself 30 minutes a day. Like it will fly by. You would spend it on Instagram otherwise. So what if you spent it actually investing in yourself and just saw, what does this actually do? Like give yourself a full week, be objective about it, and just watch how your life changes.
So good.
If you're having any trouble figuring out how to reflect or like what journaling should look like, just shoot me an email. I'll put my email in the comments or in the descriptor below, and I'd be happy to talk to you about that and kind of set up like a good structure for how to journal, because I've done a few different methods. And I can put Dee's email down there as well. If you have any questions about meditating, she's the master of that. So always feel free to reach out. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, just always know, with these 2 emails being in there, let us know if you have any questions further, you want further clarification, or just need some sort of guidance, because this is so important. It's absolutely going to be something that changes your overall experience of this life that you're living, that both of us are very much always open and willing to guide where we can.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, yeah, it's great to feel comfortable in your body and to kind of know yourself on this level, but the real value in it is being able to share it with others and help them get to that place where they're living like their fullest life. So I'm so happy to talk to you about this, and just know that we're always available. Um, that is it, guys. Please like, subscribe, comment. Thank you as always for watching and supporting. If there's anything that you'd like to see or any questions you have, absolutely comment below, and we will be back with you next week. Have a great 4th of July. Be safe. Do not blow off any limbs with fireworks, and have a blast.